When the three bullies cornered Kareem behind the gym, they expected fear. But within seconds, one of them was sprawled on the ground, and the other two instantly realized they had messed with the wrong person. Have you ever witnessed a moment where it felt like the whole world shifted in the blink of an eye? That's exactly what Millstone High in Lansing, Michigan experienced that morning. Though no one truly realized it at the time, Kareem Tolliver entered the school like a shadow. No greetings, no curious stares, no hallway whispers. A transfer student in the middle of the semester, quiet as smoke, slipping through a crack in the door. His backpack was worn, hoodie faded, and his steps unhurried, as if he had learned to read the room before ever speaking a word. It was a freezing Monday morning. Melted snow had turned into slushy mud along the walkways. The bell rang, slicing through the hall like a sharp blade. Kareem stood by his locker, his eyes scanning unfamiliar faces rushing past. Not because he was scared, but because he knew the rules. Find the classroom, don't draw attention, keep quiet. First period was math. A few glances followed Kareem as he entered the room. A girl in the back whispered something behind her hand to a friend. The teacher smiled faintly, pointed to an empty seat in the back, and continued the lesson. No introductions, no questions, just silence. But Kareem didn't mind. To him, silence was often better. In Detroit, where he grew up, silence was sometimes a survival tactic. No flashy clothes, no showing off. His uncle called it moving through life invisible, a survival skill in a place where standing out could get you into trouble, or worse. But Millstone High wasn't Detroit. This place looked like it had walked out of a magazine. Students wore designer clothes, hair perfectly styled like they'd just stepped out of a salon. Laughter echoed down the halls, confident steps, as if they owned the place. No one said anything directly to Kareem, but he could feel the eyes flicker toward his beat-up sneakers, or the subtle frowns at his worn hoodie. By the third day, he was eating lunch alone, tucked in a far corner of the cafeteria, with a tray holding spaghetti, a banana, and a carton of chocolate milk. Simple, quiet. He chewed slowly, observing as he ate. Have you ever felt like you were the only person who didn't belong? Laughter shattered the quiet. Hey, did you bring that from home? Kareem looked up. A tall white kid in a varsity jacket. Brock Simmons, junior year football co-captain and the school's unofficial king, was standing over him. Two of Brock's buddies flanked him, snickering like they'd stumbled on the funniest thing in the world. Kareem didn't respond. You eating like it's the Great Depression or something? Brock laughed louder, loud enough to get chuckles from nearby tables. Not everyone laughed, but enough did to make it feel isolating. Kareem kept his head down and continued eating. He didn't want trouble. Not now. One of Brock's friends, a short guy with a high and tight haircut, leaned in and asked, You deaf or just slow? Kareem glanced up. No reaction. Then he picked up his milk carton and stood. I'm done. He turned and walked away, leaving his tray behind. No argument, no contact. Just silence. But it didn't end there. That afternoon in science class, someone knocked all his books off his desk. No one admitted it. The teacher didn't notice. After school, the words charity case appeared scrawled on Kareem's locker in marker. Easy to erase, but hard to forget. What do you think Kareem did next? Quietly take it like he always had? Or would something change? Let me take you further into the story where patience is tested and the past doesn't stay buried. Bus 12 dropped Kareem off at the edge of town, where a small tire shop stood with a rusted sign and the faint scent of burnt rubber in the air. Behind it was Uncle Reggie's old gym, where the smell of sweat and leather hit you before the bell even chimed. When Kareem pushed open the door, Reggie was wrapping the hands of a young fighter. You good, kid? He asked, without looking up. Yeah, just school stuff, Kareem mumbled. Reggie didn't press, just nodded toward the training mat. Let it out. That's what this place is for. Kareem didn't need another word. He changed, stepped onto the mat, and started pounding the pads with sharp hooks, swift counters, and clean pivots. Fast, smooth, powerful. No showboating, just remembering who had taught him never to let anger lead the way. But that one seemingly harmless moment in the cafeteria had already set off a chain reaction Kareem never intended. That joke should have been forgotten, like the hundreds of petty jabs that fly around between classes. But to Brock Simmons, it wasn't just a joke. What got under his skin wasn't what he said, but how Kareem reacted. Or rather, didn't. He didn't flinch, didn't back down, he just walked away. And that rubbed Brock the wrong way, like a challenge. By Friday, Kareem's name was spreading through the locker room. That new kid's cocky, someone said. Doesn't say a word, just stares. Added another. Like silence was some kind of crime. In gym class, Kareem got paired with Brock for a basketball drill. The coach called out the list and the boys lined up. When Brock hurled the ball at Kareem's chest a little too hard, Kareem didn't blink. "Come on, Tolliver, show me what you got," Brock taunted. Kareem dribbled the ball once, twice. "We're just passing, right?" he asked. "Yeah, just passing," Brock replied with a fake calmness. Kareem passed it back, a sharp, precise throw like something out of a freeze-frame photo. The ball smacked into Brock's chest with a loud thud. Brock blinked. The guys around them burst out laughing. "Damn," one of them muttered. Brock gave a forced smile. "Yeah, all right. That's cute." But that was the moment he made up his mind. He didn't like Kareem. After that, everything turned petty and toxic. Malicious whispers in the halls, chewed gum stuck on Kareem's locker, even someone tripping him near the vending machine on purpose. But Kareem didn't retaliate. He didn't snitch. He just kept walking. In a place like Millstone High, silence is gasoline. And Brock carried the match. Lunchtime became Brock's personal stage. "Hey, you're from Detroit, right? Forget your bulletproof vest at home, or did you even bring one?" he shouted across the cafeteria. Some laughed out loud, others looked away uncomfortably. But no one said a word to stop him. Kareem stared down at the sandwich on his tray. One of Brock's buddies, Logan Ferris, leaned down and whispered, "Yo, I think this dude's legit crazy. Look at him. Doesn't even blink." "He's not crazy," Brock said, loud enough for the room to hear. "He's just a walking ghetto story waiting to happen." The words cut into Kareem like a blade. After school that day, he walked faster toward the bus stop. He knew how these things could escalate. He'd seen it, lived it, but this time, something felt different. It felt personal. Back home, Uncle Reggie needed only one glance at Kareem's clenched jaw to know something was up. "What's going on, kid?" he asked. And that's when the fire in Kareem finally started to stir. For the first time, he let himself think, maybe it's time to stop staying silent. "You're carrying something inside, aren't you?" Kareem gave a small nod. No words were needed. Reggie set his coffee mug down on the table, his eyes calm but razor sharp. "Sometimes keeping things bottled up is harder than throwing a punch. You feel me?" "I do. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. The goal is to graduate, build a future, but..." Reggie paused, locking eyes with Kareem. "If someone backs you into a corner, don't let them walk all over you." Kareem didn't respond. He didn't need to. Those words sank deep, like a silent command. Back at school, the rumors started to shift. A new story surfaced, that Kareem had a record, got expelled from his last school, that he once hit a teacher back in 8th grade. None of it was true, but who cared about the truth in a place where gossip spread faster than the dismissal bell? In history class, Brock leaned forward from the row behind. "You ever seen a real fight, Tolliver?" Kareem didn't turn around. "I mean real blood-on-the-floor type stuff, like in the movies, but messier." Finally, Kareem glanced over his shoulder. "You don't want to see that." Brock smirked. "Is that a threat? A warning?" Brock's smirk faltered slightly, but the next day he made a choice. After 6th period, as Kareem walked toward the back parking lot with his earbuds still in, Brock and his two friends Logan and Ty followed silently. "Hey, Tolliver." Kareem turned, pulling out his earbuds. "What? You think you're tough or something?" "No. I just want to be left alone." "You don't get to choose that," Brock said, stepping closer, his tone tightening. Kareem squared his shoulders. "Are you done?" "Not yet," Brock said, taking another step forward. The bell rang behind them, and students poured into the hallway like a tidal wave. But in this moment, time seemed frozen. What Brock didn't realize was that he was pushing against the very part of Kareem that had been trained not to break, but to push back. The next day was Friday. Cold wind swept across the Millstone parking lot as students rushed to get on buses or into cars and head home. Kareem stayed behind to help Mr. Patel, the school janitor, move some old desks out to the side entrance. He wasn't trying to score points. He just didn't want to get caught up in the noisy crowd. But that played right into Brock's plan. When Kareem walked around the back of the gym, the schoolyard was nearly empty. A few scattered cars remained, and no teachers were in sight. Brock was standing by a large trash bin with Logan and Ty. All three tried to look casual, hands in pockets, shoulders against the wall, but the tension in the air was impossible to hide. Kareem saw them, but didn't change direction. His backpack was slung over one shoulder, and his stride was steady, not fast, not slow. "Hey!" Brock called out. Kareem stopped about 10 feet away. "What, you think you're smart or something? Every time I talk, you act like I'm invisible." "I didn't come here for you," Carradine replied, calm and even. "You didn't come here, you got dumped here," Brock snapped, stepping closer. Kareem narrowed his eyes. "What do you want?" Logan began circling to one side, slowly moving like a hunter closing in. Ty leaned against the wall, chewing gum like he was watching a show that had nothing to do with him. "I want to know what makes you think you're special," Brock said, his voice getting colder. And you could feel it, couldn't you? That tension stretched to its limit like a wire, ready to snap at the smallest spark. If you were Kareem, what would you do? Keep enduring like before, or finally show them that some people, when backed into a corner, don't back down anymore? "You act like you're better than everyone else, sitting alone, staring people down." "I'm just minding my own business." "No, you're disrespecting me," Brock growled. Kareem looked him dead in the eye. "If you've got something to prove, then prove it." Right then, Logan lunged forward, shoving Kareem hard in the chest. No technique, no skill, just raw aggression. But Kareem didn't budge. He didn't fight back. He just said quietly, "Life, move." Brock scoffed. "Do it again, Logan." This time Logan swung wildly at Kareem's shoulder, but the punch never landed. Kareem had already stepped in close, pivoted smoothly, and swept Logan's leg. Logan hit the pavement with a dry thud. Died. Brock started, but before he could finish, Kareem turned to him with a glare sharp as glass. "Don't." But Brock couldn't stop himself. He charged, aiming straight for Kareem's head, thinking brute force would win. But here, muscle didn't matter. Kareem slipped the punch, spun, and drove his elbow into Brock's ribs. Clean, precise, and powerful. Brock staggered, dropped to one knee, gasping for breath. Ty backed away, hands in the air, like he'd just seen someone lift a car. Logan was still slumped against the trash bin, eyes wide in disbelief. Kareem didn't show off. He didn't gloat. He just stood there, calm. And right at that moment, Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, rounded the corner of the building. "What's going on here?" Brock scrambled to his feet, stammering. "He attacked us." Kareem looked straight at him. "Really? I didn't touch anyone until they came at me. He's making it up." Langford looked from Kareem to the other three. No blood, no bruises, just a heavy air and a kind of fear he wasn't used to seeing. Kareem stood tall, hands at his sides, breathing steady. He looked calmer than anyone else. "Come with me," Langford said. They walked toward the office in silence. In the waiting area, Kareem sat across from Brock. Logan had already called his dad. Ty hadn't said a word since the incident. Brock muttered under his breath, "He's done." He's toast. Kareem didn't even glance at him. In the principal's office, Mr. Langford looked at Kareem for a long moment. Do you want to tell me what happened? Kareem told the story clearly, calmly, without lies or excuses. Langford listened. Finally, he leaned back in his chair. You're lucky no one's bleeding. Kareem said nothing. You know the school has a zero-tolerance policy, right? I didn't start it. Langford sighed. It's not about who starts it. It's about who finishes it. Kareem looked down at the desk. Then maybe you should be talking to the people who never tried to stop it. Langford froze. A heavy silence followed. He didn't know what to say, but when things settled, when the staff showed up, Kareem didn't walk away a hero. By Monday, the entire school knew what had happened. The hallways buzzed with sideways glances and whispered conversations. Kareem couldn't round a corner without someone stepping aside, not out of respect, but out of caution. He was no longer the quiet new kid. Now he was the one to watch. In first period, the students sitting behind Kareem changed seats. At lunch, he walked in as usual, but nobody said anything. No jokes, no comments, just silence. But this silence felt different. He sat in his usual spot at the back of the cafeteria, set down his tray and started eating. Alone, just like before. But everything wasn't like before. Now, people didn't ignore Kareem. They avoided him. Across the lunchroom, Brock sat in the middle of a big group, retelling the story like he was the victim. That dude's actually crazy. He came at us like something out of an action movie, took Logan down like Bruce Lee. Who does that unless they've been in real fights? I stayed silent. Logan didn't show up to school that day. A girl in the group raised an eyebrow. But you guys surrounded him first, didn't you? Brock snapped. No, we were just talking. He's the one who flipped out. She didn't believe him, but didn't press it either. In gym class, Kareem wasn't paired with anyone. Coach Rowland simply said, group exercises only. Don't participate directly. No explanation, no reason. Kareem didn't ask. He was used to being sidelined. After school, Kareem didn't go to the gym. He took a longer route home, past the corner grocery, cutting through an old alley he hadn't walked since moving here. He needed quiet, somewhere to think. When he got home, Uncle Reggie was watching an old UFC fight. Kareem tossed his backpack aside and sank onto the couch. Rough day, kid? Reggie asked. People look at me different now. You thought they'd be grateful? No, I just didn't think they'd look at me like I'm dangerous. Reggie turned off the TV and looked at Kareem. When you stand up for yourself and win, people see that as power. And power always scares the weak, especially the loud ones. Kareem lowered his head. I didn't even hit him that hard. I know. But they don't care because you showed Brock something about himself and he wasn't ready to face it. So what do I do now? Keep your head straight. Remember why you're here. Kareem didn't answer. A small part of him, just a sliver, wished he'd hit harder that day. The next day things got even weirder. A few teachers looked at Kareem with long, contemplative stares. A school counselor called him into her office. I just want to make sure you're adjusting okay. Transferring mid-semester can be tough. Kareem nodded. She smiled a little awkwardly. Do you ever feel angry? Just asking. Kareem stood up and left before she could say anything else. That night, a blurry photo surfaced on social media. It showed the fight behind the gym. The caption read, "He thinks he's in a movie. Scared yet?" The post came from one of Brock's burner accounts. The comments were split. Hem slammed Logan like a sack of rice. Don't mess with that dude. This isn't okay. That kid's got issues. Comes here and starts chaos. Kareem read every word, not just once. Enough to feel a tightness in his chest. He wasn't ashamed of what he did, but the story no longer belonged to him. The next morning, when Kareem walked into school, 2 security officers stood at the front gate. They weren't always there. In class, the intercom crackled. All students involved in last week's incident are currently under investigation. A formal hearing will be held on Thursday. Kareem didn't react. He just stared ahead. A hearing. Now things were official. But the storm hadn't passed. Because Brock still had one weapon left, the lie. Brock Simmons wasn't used to losing. Not on the field, not in class, and definitely not in front of an audience. The fight behind the gym hadn't just bruised his ribs. It bruised his image. And for someone like Brock, that hurt more than any punch. So he did what people like him always do when they lose control. He made something up. It started with whispers to teachers saying he didn't feel safe around Kareem. Then came the rumors that Kareem had been expelled from 2 previous schools, that he once broke a kid's nose in middle school, that he carried a knife in his backpack. None of it was true, but no one asked for the truth. The video Brock had posted, blurry, short, and ending right before Logan threw the first punch, continued to circulate. In the edited clip, Kareem looked like the aggressor, calm, precise, dangerous. Brock even added a caption, "Look at how he moves. That's not normal." Then he tagged it with ominous hashtags, "Millstone threat. Does not belong here." The comments quickly took a darker tone. "Is that like us? Bet he knew kids like that from juvie? Kick him out before something bad happens." Kareem read them all. He didn't respond, didn't post a single word in his defense, but silence has a cost too. On Tuesday, Kareem's mom received a call from the school. By Wednesday, a formal hearing was scheduled at the district office. Kareem was required to attend with a guardian. Uncle Reggie took the whole day off work. In the meeting room, 4 bare walls, a long rectangular table in the center. On one side sat Mr. Langford, a school board member and the head of student discipline. On the other sat Kareem, Reggie, and a folder of written statements Reggie had insisted Kareem prepare, just in case things went south. Brock wasn't there. He didn't need to be. His version of the story already lingered in the room like smoke. Langford cleared his throat. "We've received multiple reports from students, faculty, and parents. Our responsibility is to determine whether Kareem Tolliver poses an ongoing threat to other students." Reggie leaned forward. "My nephew is not a threat. He's trained in self-defense. He doesn't seek trouble. He avoids it. He gave a warning." The board member peered over his glasses. "Is it true he's trained in martial arts?" Reggie didn't blink. "Yes, but training doesn't mean violence. It means control. It means knowing how not to hurt someone," an assistant principal chimed in. "There is a video circulating, but it doesn't show how the incident started." "Of course not," Reggie cut in, "because it was edited." The room fell silent. Kareem spoke, voice calm and steady. "They attacked me. I didn't throw the first punch. I didn't even want to be there." The board member tapped the folder lightly. "But it says here you engaged in physical violence." Kareem stared back. "So what was I supposed to do, just stand there and take it?" Silence hung in the air. Reggie leaned back, his gaze unwavering. "This isn't just about a fight. This is about bias. You saw a big, quiet black boy and assumed he was the problem." Langford looked unsettled. The school board member jotted something down without looking up. The decision was postponed. They needed more time. As they left the meeting room, Reggie sighed. "You did good. I don't feel like I did." "They heard you." Maybe they won't admit it, but they heard you." That night, Kareem didn't eat much. He sat on the back steps looking up at the sky. Everything felt upside down. He had done the right thing. Didn't start the fight. Didn't go overboard. Yet somehow, he was still the one being blamed. Have you ever felt that way, like you did everything right and still every eye turned against you? He wondered, is there even such a thing as the right way? But then a turning point came from the most unexpected place. Thursday morning, the atmosphere at Millstone was tense like a tightly wound wire. The decision from the hearing hadn't been announced yet, but people moved through the halls like the verdict was already sealed. From the moment Kareem stepped through the front gate, he felt the shift. He wasn't a student anymore. He was a rumor, wearing sneakers, a walking headline. He drifted through the corridors like mist, present but untouchable. There were stares, there were whispers, there were turnbacks. By lunchtime, his usual table in the back corner of the cafeteria felt colder than ever. Kareem sat down, pushed an apple around on his tray, took a bite, then stared at the table. And then, unexpectedly, a white girl with short auburn hair and oversized glasses sat down across from him. She didn't say hello. She leaned in and whispered, "I saw the whole thing." Kareem frowned. "Behind the gym." "I was there that day, not on purpose. I was sketching the dumpsters for an art project. I stayed quiet because I didn't want to get pulled into it. But this hearing, it's wrong. Why are you telling me now? If they expel you because of Brock's lies, then my silence makes me just as guilty." Kareem hesitated. He didn't know if he could trust her. "You're not messing with me?" Delaney looked him straight in the eyes. "No, I already told the assistant principal. I'll be at the next hearing." That night, when Reggie got home from work, Kareem told him everything. "She's going to testify?" "Yeah, but I don't know if I should believe her." Reggie nodded slowly. "Sometimes good people only speak up when silence becomes too expensive." Friday's hearing felt different. Delaney sat at the head of the table, hands folded in her lap, voice a little shaky, but every word was clear. They backed him into a corner. 3 against 1, Logan threw the first punch. Kareem defended himself. He told them to back off. More than once. I saw everything. The room froze. Even Langford stopped taking notes. "Why are you only coming forward now?" the board member asked. Delaney shook her head. "I was scared. But fear's not a good excuse." Her voice cracked at the end, but her eyes stayed steady. The meeting ended after another 15 minutes of discussion. Kareem and Reggie walked back to the parking lot in silence, not knowing how it would turn out. But something felt different this time. Winter wind whipped at their shoulders as they left the building. Kareem spoke quietly. "She didn't have to do that." Reggie simply said, "No, she didn't." But she did. The next morning, an email arrived from the school board. Kareem Tolliver will not face disciplinary action. The school acknowledges there is credible evidence he acted in self-defense. Reggie printed it out and taped it to the fridge, like a medal for the truth. But Kareem knew just because the hearing was over didn't mean everything was okay. The following week at school was quieter. No taunts, no unexpected shoulder bumps in the hallway. Brock said nothing, didn't even look Kareem in the eye. Logan came back to school with his head down. Ty sat at a completely different lunch table. One afternoon, as Kareem was loading books into his locker, Delaney walked past. She didn't say a word, just gave a small wave. Kareem smiled, a quiet, fragile smile. Some things don't need words. The atmosphere at school started to shift. Kareem saw 2 underclassmen step in to defend a kid being teased near the gym. A teacher, for the first time, interrupted when a student made a sarcastic comment in class. Small changes, nothing huge, but real. Even though justice had come, Kareem still carried a weight heavier than bruises. The final bell of the semester rang, the hallways instantly filled with laughter, clattering backpacks, slamming lockers, and vacation plans echoing off the walls. But for Kareem Tolliver, nothing ever felt normal. He stood by his locker longer than usual, letting the crowd pass. No more hearings, no more threats, no more suspicious stares, but peace was something else entirely. He had survived the storm, but surviving wasn't the same as healing. As Kareem was about to leave, Miss Curtis, the English teacher, called out, "Hey, Kareem, hold up." He turned back. "Yes, we're hosting a student-led assembly tomorrow. Someone just dropped out. We were thinking maybe you'd say a few words." Kareem froze. "Speak? In front of the whole school?" She gave a soft smile, her eyes kind. "Only if you want to. But I think people need to hear from you, not the version everyone else tells." He didn't say anything, just gave a slight nod and walked away. That night, Kareem sat on the floor of his room, a blank notebook in front of him. Pen in hand, he stared at the page for over an hour. Then he wrote the first line. "I didn't ask to be here, but I'm not planning on leaving either." The next morning, the auditorium was packed. Dim lights, students murmuring, Teachers stood along the back wall, arms crossed. Kareem waited behind the curtain until his name was called. He stepped slowly to the microphone. No notes, no script, just his voice. Since I came here, I've been called a lot of names: quiet, weird, dangerous. Maybe some of you still don't know who I am. A few nervous chuckles rippled through the room. I didn't come here to fight anyone. I just wanted to graduate. Like all of you, I just want to get through the day without any trouble. He paused, eyes scanning the crowd. The room quieted, not with tension, but with I'm not going to stand here and pretend I'm perfect. I've made mistakes. I've been angry. I've been hurt. But if everything you know about me came from someone else, then you don't really know me at all. The room went silent. I'm not from here. I come from a city where keeping your head down is a way to survive, where you learn early when to speak and when to stay quiet. He took a breath. And here I had to learn something new. Sometimes silence just makes other people speak louder. Kareem looked toward the row of teachers. I'm grateful to those who listened and even to those who didn't. Because I'm still here, you didn't get rid of me. In the middle of the room, Delaney sat still. She didn't move, didn't smile, didn't nod, just listened, her face unreadable but her eyes alive. Kareem looked up one last time. I think what I'm trying to say is, don't be so quick to label someone. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what they're carrying. He scanned the crowd, voice steady, and maybe next time, instead of laughing, pushing, or posting something twisted, try asking. Green stepped back. The mic popped quietly, then went silent. No applause at first, just stillness, like the room was thinking. Then one pair of hands clapped, then another, and soon the entire auditorium filled with applause. No shouting, no drama, just truth. That day at Millstone High, something shifted. Not everyone changed, but a few did, and sometimes a few is enough to start something new. That afternoon, as Kareem crossed the schoolyard, a younger boy stopped him. You really trained to fight? Kareem shrugged. I trained to be ready. The kid beamed. Think you could teach me? Kareem was quiet for a moment. You sure? This isn't about hurting people. The kid nodded, eyes shining, not with aggression, but with a hunger to be strong. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Kareem smiled, a small smile, but one that meant everything. All right, first lesson. Always stand tall, even when it's easier to stay low. The two of them walked side by side toward the school gate. Not like teacher and student, but like two kids learning how to move forward. Because sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists, but with a quiet struggle to prove you have the right to exist in a world that keeps trying to push you out. If this story moved you, hit follow. There are so many more stories worth hearing. Have you ever felt like you didn't belong somewhere, that no matter how hard you tried, people only saw you through their assumptions? If Kareem's story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight silently to protect your worth, you're not alone. Subscribe to this channel now so you don't miss the next story that's just as real, just as powerful, just as worthy of being heard. And if you know someone who needs a little encouragement, share this video with them. Sometimes the right story at the right moment can change everything. Because everyone has a story. The question is, who will listen?